by Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, who is the former secretary at the MEA. I'm also joined in by Maha El Gamal, who's an Egyptian journalist. Robinder Nath Sachdev, who's an international affairs expert, joins us live as well. Many thanks to you. Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, if I could begin with you. In your years of experience, I want to know from you the trajectory of the India-Egypt relationship, one that we've seen blossom during the time of Prime Minister Nehru and President Nasser, but somewhere it meandered all the way from the 70s. It seems to be now reviving, and one significant role that's being played in this relationship is the people-to-people ties, something that Prime Minister Modi has skillfully managed as far as his charisma is concerned. We already have seen that kind of charisma in Washington, D.C. But how do you see Prime Minister now leveraging his power as far as soft power of culture and people-to-people ties is concerned to gain those hard outcomes?
I'm happy to say that in 1979, I began my diplomatic career in Cairo, where I was posted as a junior diplomat. I studied Arabic at the American University in Cairo. Anyway, that's a very personal memory that I have very fond memories of living in Cairo. And even then, I noticed that how the people on the street related to India. And I still remember people coming and asking me that, you look Egyptian, but where are you from? I said, I'm from India. And they would effusively greet you, even on the streets. Those were the heydays of India and Egyptian, ties. There's a lot of emotional, cultural, sentimental value because of what Jawaharlal Nehru and President Nasser achieved as partners in the non-aligned movement. But yes, later on, as it happens, there are ups and downs. And later on, things kind of receded, and we had the end of the Cold War. Things changed, and Egypt also got absorbed in its own political problems with they had an Islamic Brotherhood government in between. And India also, I think, took her eyes off the ball as far as Egypt is concerned. And can you imagine that since 1997, which is like 25 years, this is the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister.
Right, and that perhaps only goes on to indicate the level of increased engagement between both the countries, something that has been witnessed since last year, because we've seen high-level engagement take place between both the nations, and we will delve deeper into that. Let me bring in Maha. Maha, from you, I want to know what has been the sentiment like. You heard what Ambassador Chakravarti has to say. He's made a very valid point in terms of that special connect that both the countries have shared, something that was very apparent from that grand reception that Prime Minister Modi has received from the Indian community, and more importantly, Egyptian girls. And in fact, let me also dip into some footage that's coming in, live visuals coming in of Prime Minister Modi before I take on that aspect with Maha. All right, those are the latest visuals that we're bringing to you from Cairo of Prime Minister Modi in conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister. Remember, this is going to be a very significant interaction, and shortly after this interaction will Prime Minister Modi be also presiding over a roundtable discussion, which will be not just presided over by Prime Minister Modi, but also by Mostafa Madbouly, who is the Prime Minister of Egypt. Right now, you can see there's a very serious discussion happening over there. Maha, if I could bring you in on this discussion that we are seeing right now, latest and live visuals coming in of Indian Prime Minister not only being greeted by the Egyptian Prime Minister first at the airport, and now in a serious discussion. It seems like a bilateral meet between the two. What is at the table for Egypt and India?
Hello, thank you for the interview. Yes, the importance for the Egyptian people, it's important to get this bilateral relations between India and Egypt because we have a history of the trade and also the And if we can say now, the Egyptian president, when he visited India in January, he assured that the bilateral relations should be now a strategic one. So it's coming to another phase, which the strategic, and we mentioned the fighter air forces, the joint exercises of the air fighters, crafts of the air forces for the two countries. So this is also important point with also the global change and the economic crisis that Egypt maybe is facing now because of many points, especially after the Russian-Ukrainian invasion or war. So it's important for Egypt now to get this cooperation and bilateral relations with India. It's important and crucial, especially with the economic crisis, and also when India suggested that the countries that are facing a problem with or crisis in their economy, they can do this exchange with the local currencies between the two countries.
You've made some very valid points when it comes to the kind of crisis that the world is witnessing, especially not just after the pandemic, but also after the war in Ukraine. There has been a major disruption to supply chains, and perhaps that's where India is also trying to step in to come to the rescue of countries like Egypt, which were heavily dependent on Ukraine and Russia, especially when it came to grain supply. 90% of the grain supply comes from Ukraine and Russia for Egypt. On that note, I'd like to bring in Rabindranath Sachdev. Rabinder, what can Egypt hope to achieve from India before I delve deeper into those strategic advantages that Egypt can provide India as far as the freight corridors and its geopolitical location is concerned? But I want to know from you, what can in fact India offer to Egypt?
Couple of things. Before that, one, the world of today is not only geopolitics, it's optopolitics. Images, culture, mixed with, the interviews you had with our brothers and sisters in Egypt and their emotional connect with India, optics and geopolitics. So what we are seeing with Egypt and everywhere with India and everyone is optopolitics. One. Second, what can Egypt hope to achieve? And we can concrete. Egypt is in the market for about 70 aircraft deal of the Tejas kinds. We don't know where the exact decisions are heading. We are facing strict competition from the South Koreans, who are also becoming huge defense suppliers. The interesting thing is that India had offered Egypt a co-production or a joint kind of a deal with respect to the 70 aircrafts. Now, with Modi going to the US and us getting the jet engine deal, wherein the jet engines will also be made in India, I think India can be a very competitive supplier to Egypt for its aircrafts of the Tejas category and the trainer aircraft. So that's a huge potential right now. One concrete hard, that deal, good for Egypt, good for India via the US, because we have the jet engines being produced here. That's one. The other thing that Egypt is offering India, and that's great win-win for India, is that in the Suez Canal, Egypt sits there, they have a industrial zone. In that industrial zone, Egypt has offered India an industrial park and a port. In that zone, there are two, I think, Russian ports and industrial park. China has one. Egypt has offered India one also. I think we're going to take it up, how it works out, etc. But we will, or we could have a presence in the Suez Canal industrial zone with one port developed by India and an industrial park, maybe 10 acres, 20 acres. I think the Russian one is about 10 acres, whatever, for Indian companies to set up their base out there. These are concrete, hard, benefits that Egypt and us, we will both have.
Ambassador Chakravarti, if I could bring